it'll be kind of fresh and new, actually, and I think we're all excited to that.
Some familiarity still there, but Dan, do you expect the Lions offense to take a step back this season, excuse me?
I do, because the loss of Ben Johnson, who's their ex-offensive coordinator, now head coach of the Chicago Bears, has got to be felt. He has been one of the most creative offensive coordinators and minds in the NFL over the last 3 or 4 seasons. And the step 5, 6, 7 of the things that he does to free things up in their offense is very rare. And he's one of one when it comes to doing stuff like that. It doesn't mean that they're going to go from one of the best to one of the worst, but I don't think they're going to week in and week out shock us with some of the creative things that they do both in their run and pass game.
Let's go to Pittsburgh now, where...
Let's not go to Pittsburgh. Let's talk Detroit Lions. Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with what Orlovsky's saying here. I really don't think it should be all that controversial to believe that you can lose someone like Ben Johnson and not take some sort of step back. But again, I think what triggers a lot of Detroit Lions fans is that they think that means that they're automatically just going to like collapse. And that's not the case either. Again, we can keep using the Eagles as a perfect example of how they have Shane Steichen, a great OC, then they have a bad OC and their offense falls apart, and then they get Kellen Moore, and boom, their offense starts to make sense again. And so no one's saying that John Moran is going to cause this offense to just, collapse and just be bad. And honestly, like, I think I keep making the argument that I'm all for kind of like a little bit of a different identity for the Detroit Lions. I'm excited to kind of see what they can do and kind of evolve. Because I think that's, in a way that's kind of needed right now. So my big thing would be is don't try to either one up Ben Johnson or try to repeat what Ben Johnson does. Kind of still have some of that continuity, of course, and understand what works and what doesn't, but try to build off of that and then try to find your own brand of special, and also what John Morton himself individually and personally is most comfortable with regards to this offense, right? You can't pretend to be something that you're not. But again, we can't overlook the shoes that you have to fill when a Ben Johnson leaves. There's a lot of Detroit Lions fans who are trying to act like, oh, Ben Johnson wasn't really that big of a deal. It was all Dan Campbell. And it's just like, guys, it's just not true. You can still believe in Dan Campbell as a coach, but to try to downplay the impact that Ben Johnson had on that offense and all of that is just kind of wild. Because then other people want to try to say that, Dan Campbell made Ben Johnson, and it's just like, it's just also not true. Were there some influences? Sure. But, like that was Ben Johnson's offense. It was his play designs, his play calling, his game plans, and the way how he really was able to scheme guys open and kind of use the run game in such creative ways, not to mention obviously the trick, because I don't care about the trick plays, honestly. I'm really not. I'm not a big trick play guy. I got it. It can be fun. It's cool to watch when it works for you, but that doesn't get me fired up. It does get a lot of guys fired up, but it does not for me. I care so much less about that. Kansas City Chiefs don't rely on trick plays. Philadelphia Eagles don't rely on trick plays, and they're the last two teams that have won Super Bowls. So the 49ers don't really rely on trick plays, and they went to multiple Super Bowls. So like trick plays are just not my thing. Again, they're fun when they work, especially in big moments. It's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, and it can be exciting, but like, I'm just not, I don't watch a Detroit Lions game and think like, okay, what trick play do they have up next? Or when they did like the fake fall to the ground or whatever against the Chicago Bears, and everyone was talking about it, and they're like, oh, he's a genius. This was specifically designed against the Bears. I think it was the Bears. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like it just doesn't matter to me. When they beat the Dallas Cowboys as much as they did, and they kept doing like trick play after trick play after trick play, and I get why they did it, and that was fun, and that was cool, and that was kind of like, sunning the Cowboys in a way, but it's also kind of just like, I don't know, just beat up on them. Like, you're just such a better team. You're bigger, stronger, faster, better in every facet of that game, that this is like, that energizes me more than the trick plays. The fact that they were able to get to the line so quick and call hike and have the Dallas Cowboys off, just not prepared essentially, and just shows the preparation of the Detroit Lions. Like, that excites me more than like a misdirection, a misdirection play or whatnot, like that's just me. when you execute something at a high level and are just like, I'm better than you, that fires me up. It just does. And then like I'm just a little bit more old school in that regard. So I'm excited to see if they can kind of keep that as their foundation. Kind of just be a bunch of bullies. Be the bigger, stronger, faster guys. And still obviously still have the feeling of also intelligence and the brains behind some of that brawn. But I just wonder if they rely a little bit more on the individuals rather than the game plan and the play and the game and the play designs. I'm worried. I'm curious if this Detroit Lions team can kind of take a step forward, and if the individually the players can understand, I gotta step up. I can't just rely on a walk in the park on Sunday. It's going to be a little bit harder. It's time for me to take that step forward. You're really putting the ball in the hands of the players more than anything this season than compared to previous seasons, and I'm excited to see what that looks like. I think the biggest prediction that I have for the Detroit Lions is that I think more than anything, Jared Goff will take a slight step back. That's just what I believe. I am a firm believer in the importance of a great coach connected to your quarterback. And I just think that outside of John Morton just being like an absolute slam dunk where pretty much people are going to be like, okay, dude, he's at the top of the list for an offensive head coaching job as well. I just think that you'll see, and again, it doesn't mean that now Jared Goff's going to be throwing nothing but interceptions and fumbling the ball. I just think little things. He's going to take a little bit more sacks. He's going to have a little bit more incomplete passes. Like, he's going to deal with the pressure a little bit, not as successful. Like I said before in a previous video, I think his pressure to sack percentage will tick up now. So again, it's not like I'm saying that he was a top 10 quarterback and now he's bottom 5 quarterback, but it's just, things are just not going to be as smooth. Which, I'm curious to see how they manage. I'm curious to see. And again, to be very clear, I'm not saying also, again, what Dan Orlovsky highlighted as well. It's like, I'm not saying that I think the Detroit Lions team is really in trouble and they're going to take a massive step back and like no one should consider them to be this great team. Like, it's not what I'm saying at all. I still think they're a top team. I still think they're a great team. I still think that they're in the driver's seat for, in their division and in the conference as well, potentially, depending on obviously how these other teams do. Because if the Eagles take a step back because of how they lost a coordinator and they lost some pieces now, if the Commanders, if Jaden Daniels has a little bit of a sophomore slump, et cetera, it's just like, I mean, like I'm putting the Lions at the top of the list. In no way am I like, oh, the Packers, they leapfrogged the Lions, and oh, JJ McCarthy and the Vikings, they leapfrogged the Lions. Like, I'm not making those statements either. I think the Lions are still very much there. So a lot of it's just going to be the devil in the details, and it's a question mark with the coaching staff. Just is what it is. And again, if you're a Lions fan, I think it's okay to acknowledge that and accept that. You could be optimistic. You could still be excited. You could still believe that your team is still going to be great. I think that's all fair, but I still think it's an appropriate reaction to be like, yeah, we do kind of have to wait and see a little bit. We have to see what happens when Ben Johnson leaves, because he is that great of a coach. And, I wholeheartedly believe in the utmost importance of coaching. It just matters tremendously. So you lose both offensive and defensive coordinators, things can just get a little tricky. Just is what it is. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Detroit Lions? Do you think that there's a potential that they can take a step back? And if so, how big? And if not, why? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're all on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.